It is the Mosley Show. And boy, I talked the other day about Band on the Run. I've been watching that Paul McCartney documentary. I was a man on the run today, up and down 35, at a meeting early this morning. Well, wasn't that early. 8:30 meeting, but it meant I had to leave my place in Dallas. Well, I was up at 5:45 a.m., which is not, anybody who knows me knows it's not really. Now, you may catch me that time of, going to bed. I do stay up to all hours, but I do not rise generally in the 5:45 to 6 a.m. range. I did today. I had a meeting in Waco. I can't say a ton about it, but certainly involved Baylor athletics, and in the coming days, I think I'll be able to share more. And but I did come away from it feeling a little more excited than I had been about Baylor football season, about what lies ahead, about the future of Baylor athletics. But anyway, then I turned around like an idiot. I should have, Kevin. I was probably thinking too much about like making your life easier, and not. Usually it's about making my life easier. And,
I know.
Yeah, but I thought to myself, I was like, I could stay out of this mess.
Yeah.
This monsoon, and just do the show from the studio. But then I thought I hadn't given Kevin any heads up, and he's used to doing it.
I do appreciate that, because
I didn't like the thought of having to spring that on you.
Yeah.
At 10 o'clock this morning, that, hey, I need you to do this show from Rogue Media Studios.
That's much appreciated.
Okay.
Lots of family stuff going on for me.
Okay.
It's prom weekend, so
yeah. I don't know what that has to do with my show, but it certainly is something. Now, programming note, Kevin, while you're here,
right.
So I don't forget to convey some of this. Very exciting that our buddy Jake Lindsay did have their third child, and Miss Emery has entered the world, and that's very, very exciting. And
welcome, Jake Lindsay and Emery.
Yes, and so that's very exciting news. We're breaking the news. I think probably his friends and family are aware, but some of the Baylor family, the extended Baylor family, would like to probably wish Jake Lindsay much excitement on the arrival of his little girl. And that's a cool Emery. I've got a friend that has a daughter named Emery Kate. This is Emery, I believe, Emory, like the school in Atlanta. Yeah. And I think it's a pretty name, and comes into a huge basketball family. And so Jake Lindsay, as he gets ready to be the Baylor's assistant coach / GM, we welcome Jake Lindsay back. Now, we're supposed to have him tomorrow. I got word yesterday, Kev, I don't think I mentioned this to you, that's pushed to next week. All right. Okay. So Jake Lindsay will join us next week. But with some of the changes, I was able to, me, I'm always kind of like, well, if I can't have him, I'd like to have him, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Jerome Tang is not. That's not official. There's some things that everything's fine. He's going to be. Like, all the reports are correct that he's becoming a coach at Baylor again, but he's got to tie up some things. I will be talking to Jerome in the coming days off air, because Jerome and I remain great friends from his time at Baylor. And even when he was at K-State, he came on a lot. We can't have Jerome on quite yet. So you go, well, Matt, who does that leave? We can't have Jake tomorrow? Can't have Jerome? Well, let's see. Who else might be interesting to have on in that program? I believe Scott Drew will be stopping by tomorrow. All right. So we'll have Scott on.
Nice.
And they've got a big golf tournament coming up that we're going to be a part of, Kev, and that's May 8th out at Bear Ridge. And man, I've been talking to Michael Hillman about this. This is a all hands on deck. They've got an incredible group of sponsors lined up for this, and we're going to be out there in the middle of it. I think John, let's see, J-Mo, me, I think Tommy Barfield may be out there, and now Kevin, and this is where you come in because you wouldn't mind doing this.
Oh no,
there's some people they want me to heckle the players. Okay. I am above that. I'm not above anyone. I don't want that to come across wrong. But when it comes to golf and honoring the decorum, I'm not going to come out there and heckle anybody. That's not me. Now, I'm not saying somebody couldn't do that. So, Kev,
do you want me to write some Shooter McGavin jokes for you?
That may be. Well, I'm not going to do it. Okay. But I do think there will.
I didn't know if you just needed material. I could help you.
There will be some heckling that goes on out there. It will not come out of my mouth. Interestingly, I think, Kev, they would like us to be on one of the holes. Now, I've explained, we might need some power and we might need a power source and, things
internet.
Like that. Yeah. Well, we certainly could bring sort of our own hotspot in a sense. I think there are ways to deal with life with it. I think we have probably ways to counter the whole internet thing. But anyway, we'll work through it. But the excitement is that we're all going to be out there and be a part of this thing. And it is the who's who of Central Texas, like huge. If you think of like a big time company in like one of them is Cornerstone. That's Michael Hillman's company. I mean, these are monstrous local businesses. One of them is Joey Corona's company, Campus Realtors. And Joey's been huge in Austin and in the world of real estate and apartments, condo, all that stuff. He's big time in that industry. And so he's going to be out there. His company is sponsoring like some huge thing they're doing on the driving range before the tournament even starts. So lots of excitement building around this tournament. And we'll give you more information as we get closer to that. And I'm going to be out there at Bear Ridge.
Well,
this is happening.
As I've mentioned, the highlight of my golf is if I can get it through the clown mouth. And so I'll Jim Nance the situation if you want to go ahead and play.
Oh, wow. All right.
Hello, friends.
Offering to just take over. I mean, I would love to play, but I feel like they've signed me on for my radio abilities and not my golf abilities. Now, if it were a tennis tournament, which would be fun for Scott Drew because he did play tennis in college, or a pickleball. See, that's what I think Scott really ought to think about that too. He ought to lean into some because he's really good at pickleball, tennis, but golf is, of course, still probably more popular than those other things. And so I understand why they would want to have a golf tournament. That's all happening. Kev, we had some breaking news yesterday after we got off the show. I wish these people someday they'll learn to only announce things while we're on the air, while we're still on the air. But Kev, George Pickett's, Schefter tried to report this thing about 10 times, but it finally came to fruition yesterday. Thanks to Todd Archer of ESPN and others. George Pickett's, according to sources yesterday, actually put pen to paper and he signed his franchise tag. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to start showing up for all the voluntary workouts and all that. It does mean that he'll need to be at that mandatory mini camp coming up in June sometime. And obviously he'll need to be at training camp. And this allows them now, he could be traded I don't think that. Cowboys have shown no indication that that's what they want to do. But the will he, won't he, the weirdness of it being reported that he was going to sign, that he had signed, and then it's like, no, he has not signed. Now he has signed. And I thought, Kev, I'm going to put my glasses on for this one. I thought Nick Harris, our buddy from Star Telegram, had some good stuff on this. Like that yesterday, I'll have to find this on the Twitters, Twitter sphere. The by the way, I saw that looks like Des Bryant's. I'll have to look at that. I was looking at a Facebook post. It looked like Des Bryant's high school coach passed away. Very famous high school coach, and I was reading Dez's words right before the show. So meaningful, and I thought that was I thought that was really nice. And these high school coaches, man, they just have such an incredible impact on these players. In you know, whether it be father figure to some, huge mentor. I mean, you know, even people that have dads that are in their lives, their high school coaches end up meaning a ton to them. I know I had some good ones. I had too many basketball coaches. I liked all of them. And in fact, one of them remains a close friend to this day. But my high school basketball coach, Kev, had me ready to go. My senior year was ready to have a breakout year. He went to my church. He was the FCA leader. I was the vice president of FCA. I was in position to have a beautiful senior year. And Sherman came in and hired him away from Kaufman. And my senior year, the coach came in, who, by the way, I ended up loving the coach. But let's just say the senior year I was supposed to have did not come to fruition because the coach who believed in me and had for several years left. The new coach sort of believed in me as more of a team, you know, sort of a leader, but maybe not always on the court. So anyway, okay, Kev, here we go. What does it mean for Pickens? I thought Nick came up with just a good little quick hitting, you know, to remind everybody what the franchise tag actually means. Okay, one, he's locked in under Cowboys control for $27 million, a little over. $300,000 over for 2026. Two, the team has until July 15th to work out a long-term deal. Although they said, last week that they won't be negotiating a long-term contract. After July 15th, they can only agree to a reworked one-year deal. Okay, we see it happen occasionally. I think that happened with Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati, perhaps. Okay, three, with voluntary workouts beginning this week, Pickens hasn't participated yet. He's not required to show up until the June 16th through 18th mandatory minicamp, meaning he could hold out from voluntary workouts and OTAs without being fined. Four, signing the tag allows the Cowboys to trade him if they wish at any point. Dallas has stated its intentions to not do that, but it's a consideration everyone has to consider if this drags on all summer. Okay, all right. So there is kind of a primer, if you will, on everything that has happened with George Pickens since about 20 hours ago. He signed the franchise tag, so that is in play. So maybe the Cowboys will surprise us and get a long-term deal done. Stranger things have happened, but I don't love the chances. I don't think that's what they'll be dying to try to do. So there you go. I did want to, Kevin, before we moved on to this fascinating college basketball story, wanted to update you on. Got a couple of we got some Major League Baseball games. Got a lot of day ball going on today. Today is Thursday, which means a lot of these teams are trying to get a day ball and then get out of town because they got series starting Friday. That's why we got so much day ball. Braves up 2-1 over Tigers in the bottom of the seventh, into top of the eighth. Giants up over the Phillies 2-1. The Reds 4-2 over the Rockies in the top of the seventh. Baltimore beating the Astros 5-0 in the top of the sixth. And dang it, my Pirates are trying to fight back, but they're down 5-3 to St. Louis in the bottom of the fifth. That's been a disastrous few games for the Pirates. They've lost 4 in a row now. The Nats and Mets are tied at 3 in the top of the fifth. And Arizona, Milwaukee, Milwaukee's up 3-0 in the top of the second inning. I like a day, Kevin. I like a random Thursday when you just get a whole bunch of day ball going in baseball. All right, for those of us who used to come and watch,
not Brian Dayball.
Okay,
right?
You've come with jokes today. I
do.
Probably since I was talking about Major League Baseball.
Okay.
I think people understand when I mention day ball, day baseball for those.
It usually happens more on a Wednesday, right?
Well, but if you think about it, though, Thursday can be a getaway because then you got series starting, like I said, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah,
it could be Wednesday. Yeah, but most times people are kind of getting ready for but yeah, you never know. And then occasionally you could have the 4-game series, which might end on a Thursday, and then you got the Friday series starting, or you get the random Thursday off days. But yeah, Wednesday it does happen.
And then the Kentucky Derby Saturday.
Yeah, that's always fun. That's always fun. And I used to go to a lot of Kentucky Derby parties. I've been to a few. Those can be fun. I'd like to go to the real deal someday. It's like, I don't know, what's bucket list, but not like, it's really, I mean, my life's not going to like change, kind of like a half-ass bucket list. Is that, or something like that, or oh gosh, my folks are not going to like that. My mom. Half-A. I'm sorry. You can delete that later. Okay. I had this story for you because I feel like this Baylor and others. Here's what's going to happen. And your Mark's been pretty good at this. And then Kevin, you can bring up when we get to Campus Confidential coming up at about 1:30 or so, 1:35. You can bring up this thing that the Big 12 has decided to do. Because I might be able to shed some light on how Baylor's going to approach this thing. I kind of have a feel for it. And this is this infusion of private equity money that the Big 12 has said, okay, all right. And they're giving their member institutions the ability to get $30 million loan at 10%, pay it back. And then the Big 12 is going to take, I think, a little cash injection of about $11 or $12 million, and we'll see what they use it for. I don't know, but that does interest me because the Big 12 became the first conference to go ahead and accept the private equity. I'll let you know kind of where I think Baylor stands in all this. But this was breaking news, Kevin, at about 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time. Amazon to televise 3 marquee Duke basketball games as part of landmark deal. Whoa, okay, only on Prime. Well, we know ESPN, we know Fox, we know even Peacock. We know all these networks that have been involved in college basketball. we know Amazon Prime has become a big player in the NFL. Here you go. Welcome to collegiate athletics. Amazon Prime wading into college basketball. And I find this fascinating. I don't have the terms on this in terms of the money. I would very much like to know this. They obviously have Thursday night football through 2033. They also began an 11-year media rights agreement with the NBA this season. Is that the one, Amazon Prime? Is that what Dirk and Steve Nash and some of those guys are on? Kev, oh gosh, I'm sorry, Kevin. This is my nonsense. Every once in a while, I get something up on my screen that. Okay, the Blue Devils will face UConn in Vegas on November 25th, as your screen tells you. Reigning champion Michigan at Madison Square Garden on December 21st. I went to that Baylor-Duke game like on December 20th or 21st, and we had the greatest time a couple of years ago. That was so much fun. And Gonzaga on February 20th in Detroit. Okay. I don't.
These are all neutral site games.
Yeah.
I get Las Vegas. I understand that. I get MSG, New York City. What is the appeal of Detroit for Duke and Gonzaga fans?
Well,
why would you want to go to Detroit
at
the end of February?
I know, but
you should stay home and watch it on Prime.
We got to think harder than that, because what it tells you is there has to be some Detroit tie-in to Amazon. Right. Now, Amazon is everywhere, but it can't be as random as it sounds. Like, there's got to be a reason. Okay, let's just think where Gonzaga is.
Prime days are normally at the beginning of February.
Duke's East Coast, Gonzaga's West Coast. I guess it's just maybe they decided that was a decent meeting point.
Just going to meet right here.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, again, I don't know for sure, but this is a first of its kind partnership that includes the retail giant too. So like, in addition to, there's somehow going to be like a big retail aspect to this with Duke, so it's not only on Amazon Prime, but there's going to be Brazos and the whole crew are getting involved, and there's a big NIL play here. I would think that a ton of the money is going to go into NIL, and so again, this is the rich getting richer. Duke has huge amounts of NIL money, huge amounts of donations. It's one of the few schools like Kentucky, like Indiana used to be, like it's just like Kansas, that like UNC, where basketball truly comes first. And so John Shire and Duke have landed just a massive deal here. And Kev, I would say, I bet the money is pretty staggering. It will include extensive NIL opportunities for Duke athletics and is part of a broader retail partnership expected to be announced at a later date. Now, do we really care about the retail partnership? We do not. The only thing I would care about is like how much money is changing hands here. How much NIL money is Duke getting out of this? The Duke AD Nina King says, in addition to our outstanding partnership with ESPN, we're excited to work with Prime Video on this groundbreaking initiative. As Prime Video's first college sports partner, this collaboration not only expands the global reach of Duke men's basketball, but also creates meaningful opportunities for our student athletes in a way that reflects innovation and excellence. Let me tell you why Baylor needs to flip this in a hurry and get their basketball program rolling again. All right, after winning a national title in 2021 for reasons just like this. Okay, Baylor certainly would not, as much as we love it, would not be as attractive to Amazon as a blue blood, enormous brand like Duke. Now, Baylor was really after the national title and then all those years of Scott and then 3-4 straight years of being a number one seed, should have been a number one seed the year COVID hit. They would have been a number one seed that year. They were for the national title year. They were in 2022. Baylor had really become a college basketball blue blood. I mean, maybe not in the technical sense, but they were well on their way, and people just had immense respect for the program. I still think that's the case. It just, I would say the last 2 years just did not help. And then NIL portal, all the stuff hurts. Let's see. Approximately $20.5 million for the 2025-26 season. That's the revenue share cap and increasing by 4% each of the next 2 years. It says Duke's agreement with Amazon allows the program to generate real NIL opportunities for its players. So they're saying those are legit deals that the College Sports Commission would sign off on. I mean, as if anybody is holding this in check right now. I got the feeling today, Kev, I was just, talking to some folks about Baylor athletics and all that kind of stuff. And there are times I get the feeling that Baylor is like the last school in the country playing by the rules. I mean, there are so much circumnavigating the College Sports Commission and these what are supposed to be legitimate NIL deals. That's so far gone that doesn't even exist. And yet Baylor, because of who we are and who we represent and what we want to be, I think still tries to do everything above board. And I'm not going to come on here saying you got to stop, you got to find a way to cheat, but I don't advocate cheating, but I do think, when Doug McNamee says he's looking under every rock, he's going to do it the right way, but I think Baylor is going to become more and more and more creative in how to go about this. Now, was Baylor Kev, the only teams in college basketball that could pull something like this off would be UConn, Duke. I mean, I usually would say Kentucky, but they're so down right now. I mean, they just weren't that great this past year. Although they didn't make it to Sweet 16, did they? I don't think so. They just won that first round game on a crazy shot. It's a handful of teams that can pull something like this off. That Amazon, and actually it's Duke, UNC, UConn, Michigan. So that's 4 teams. Kev, I'm running out. I don't really think Michigan State. I don't really think Illinois. Is there anybody else? Don't really think
simply the market. I'm thinking UCLA or St. John's just because of the market that they are in. But
yeah, maybe. Wait, who'd you say? I don't. I don't think UCLA right now.
Right.
I mean, it's a good thought because
I understand where the programs are,
yeah.
maybe not, but given they're in the two largest markets, New York and LA.
Yeah, I know.
That's my thought.
But we've seen how much that matter. Like football, UCLA is a complete zero, even though they're in a huge market. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
If UCLA got great again in basketball, and they go from, I mean, every once in a while they'll be good again, but that's about it. You might make an argument for Arizona. I think Gonzaga is great. I just don't think they're quite, on that Duke, UNC, UConn level. All right, but I just found that to be a very interesting thing. One more deal, Kevin, and then in the 2:00 hour, we are going to let you hear from. We just on Doomsday, we had this unbelievable guest. We had Matt Miller breaking down the NFL draft. We're going to share that with you at about 2:30, and then at 2 or about 2:05. We're going to look at what the rest of the NFC East did in the draft. We've been very, very Cowboys focused. Matt Miller, the talk we have with him will be very Cowboys intensive. But I do want to spend a little time in the 2:00 hour looking at how the Commanders, Eagles, and Giants did. And we'll have thoughts, and then we'll let you share your thoughts. All right. All right. Let's do some Campus Confidential and some very interesting news that the Big 12 has chosen to accept private equity money. What does that mean for your team? That's next.
It's the premier charity event of the year, the 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, presented by Ascension Providence. A fun evening filled with great food and drink, dancing, a spectacular auction, and more. This year's theme is Nashville Nights, Neon Lights, and Bullfights. Get your tickets now, donate, or be a sponsor. Help support the American Cancer Society to find a cure. The 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, October 24th at MCC Highlander Ranch. For more information, go to centraltexascattlebaronsball.org.
This year, I made a New Year's resolution. I want every business to own a new copier from CTWP. Call me, Leroy the Copier Dog. Let's get you a copier delivered today. CTWP, your local copier company.
At Schmaltz Sandwich Shop, we don't just make sandwiches, we build them with fresh ingredients, bold flavors, and homemade baked bread every single day. Toasty on the outside, goodness on the inside. Schmaltz Sandwich Shop in Waco is locally owned and operated since 1975 with 2 locations in Waco, Town West off Valley Mills and downtown off 5th Street. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or just a craving, we got the perfect bite waiting for you. Bumblebee Blinds of Waco and Temple is your one-stop shop for custom window treatments, transforming your vision into reality. Choose from a selection of shades, blinds, shutters, and curtains. Bumblebee Blinds stands behind our service and products, ensuring peace of mind with our trusted warranty. Call Bumblebee Blinds today to schedule your design consultation. Bumblebee Blinds, simplifying window treatments one covering at a time. BumblebeeBlinds.com. The Riesel Fair is back and bigger than ever. Bring the whole family for a day packed with fun, from thrilling rides, delicious food, local vendors, and live music Friday night. Saturday music begins at 2 p.m. Admission is $5 for adults, 2 to 12 years $3, 2 and under are free. Mark your calendar and join us for the Riesel Fair May 7th through 9th. The Riesel Fair, where memories are waiting just for you.
Ah, yes. That is the Mosley Show. And I was sitting here, had a little news coming in there, Kev, that I was trying to respond to. Let's make sure, man, what a schedule that is, by the way. Just those I'm just thinking about Duke. They're playing UConn. I mean, that's going to be a huge rematch of that unbelievable game. That'll be in Vegas right around Thanksgiving.
So, do you think they'll have that in the Sphere? That'd be pretty epic. I don't think that's set up for that, but
no. They have their places that they like doing those games in Vegas.
It's usually like the MGM. I've been there, but yeah.
No, Sphere is for concerts.
Right.
I don't think
that'd be pretty epic, though.
Yeah,
if they could move seating around, I don't think they can fluctuate.
But they don't. Wait, when you're watching a concert at the Sphere, is there anything over your head? Is it kind
of all the way over your head and down. So, but all the seats
you could put a basketball court in there?
I don't think that they can move the tiered seating and the balconies that are in there. So,
yeah, I don't know.
They didn't think through everything in the Sphere. Not everything is possible there.
I would like to see. I'm not a big Vegas guy, but I kind of would like to see that thing. Okay, let's continue, sir, and let's do something we like to call Campus Confidential. Some of the huge news out there in college basketball. Hey, Kevin, we haven't really hit on it this week because we've had a bunch of draft stuff to react to. I mean, if you like the reviews of the draft, I mean, we are the place for you. But at some point we need to recap. There was just this wave of like 7-foot Europeans. It's like everybody got one. Like, all right, did you hear about so-and-so, 7'2"? Here's a guy from, West Africa. He's now playing for, I mean, this is the first year I can remember actually hearing the number of entries for the NBA draft are like way down. So while we do talk sometimes about, I hate this, I hate the portal, I hate what it's done to college athletics. Well, the truth of the matter is there are a lot more high caliber players not taking the leap. And then you got all these G leaguers trying to get back into college basketball. Who would have ever thought that? Think about it. Right. Those freshmen or they were trying to go straight to a G League type situation from high school. It was never like, I mean, there was never a thought of let's go pro and then come back to college. And now a lot of people are trying to do that because of the huge money in college.
That's the thing. And that's what saddens me is like, it's twofold that one, they can make more money in college than they can in professional. That shouldn't be the case, whether that is on the professional league or college for overpaying. And then two, we're not talking about them staying in college longer from what they mean about it in the purest sense, because all they're doing is going from one school to another, which doesn't mean that they're actually continuing in their degree better, because it's so hard to transfer in credits and everything like that. So while it does seem good, it does seem better for the college basketball game, it is not necessarily overall something that is a beneficial situation to the student athlete.
Well, to their pocketbooks. I mean, it's a huge benefit, but in terms of the way we used to think of what college is for and the experience and the degree that comes with it and all. I mean, not that doesn't happen at some places, but look at these degrees now. If you're a decent player and you get on with like a G6, a group of 6 type team, and then you start working your way up, I mean, you may be at, a minimum. We're going to pretty soon, someone who's only been to 2 schools, that's going to feel like a 4 or 5 year, college graduate from the same school. Like that's the new. These people are dying, or it just doesn't happen anymore. Like the thought of going somewhere and spending your whole career, it's shocking. It happens at Purdue occasionally. I'm trying to think of where it kind of happens.
Michigan
It
State
happened with Kelvin Sampson. Yeah, Michigan State's probably a good one. And then, I
don't know.
Those Duke kids do stay. The ones that are good but not quite NBA good, they will stay. And Duke knows when to get rid of a guy too. Here's the thing, if there's a Duke veteran that hits the portal, run for the hills. Do not try to sign that player. I promise you. I would say the same thing probably for Michigan as well. If there's a Michigan player that wants out of Michigan
within the last 2 years of Dusty May's.
Yeah, I
career.
think you have to go, what is going on? Because if they're really good, Michigan, Duke, those schools have the means to keep them.
You could probably say the same for UConn.
Can you imagine, even with all the money that's already been spent? And I hope he stays in the draft and this doesn't become a thing, because I'd hate to see him playing for somebody else if he can't play for us, for the Bears. I think Tunde, I think somebody would pay him something insane. Even now, I think Tunde could go somewhere and literally like a BYU type place, and somebody would pay him $4 or $5 million.
Look at that face. He's ready to react to it right now.
I think they would pay him Sorsby money.
Yeah.
I don't think he's made as many. No, I'm not gonna. I think you can make Sorsby jokes. I'm sorry. It's not like, to me, I hate for people that have gambling issues. That is a real thing, believe me. But this was a kid who just got completely out of control. And he may have a gambling addiction. But this whole thing about, oh my gosh, be respectful. This kid needs our help and everything. Tech is doing everything, which is what they should be doing. They're doing everything in the world to get him into a program so that somehow the NCAA, maybe they would look more favorably on him if
they can protect
like
their investment.
Legit type deal, yeah. Ooh, you can't believe. I mean, getting big time calls here. Wow.
So, sure. Campus Confidential, you ready?
I am, man. Hit me with it.
All right. Is it too much or too long to have a 7-year extension for $12.5 million per year for Kalen DeBoer?
Okay, say those numbers again.
It's 7 years, 2.5 per year. Is it too much? Is it too long? Should they have waited? Or is it just fine with you?
The extension of 2.5 more.
Because
I guess it
wasn't
happened.
He kind of on the hot seat-ish
yeah.
after that IU loss?
If you're at Alabama and you're not Nick Saban, you are on the hot seat every year in a sense. You enter the year, the post-Indiana, the embarrassment of that. I thought we commented on this, and I apologize. I may be thinking about something else, but
I think we did a little bit. Yeah.
But I'm amazed. I think what I was hitting on a week or two ago regarding this is like, that's kind of wild that they would feel the need to do this when they got beat 38-3 by Indiana. Like it's I guess the only thing I would say is I think he was in the mix. Michigan in their minds can go hire anybody, right? And you say, well, what, the Alabama coach? Well, they knew the Alabama coach might be getting already a little sick of Alabama.
Right.
This is not.
It's not the Alabama coach. This is just an Alabama coach at this point right now.
This is in some ways the toughest job in college football. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I would put above it. Ohio State, certainly right there, close. Yeah. But just in terms of either you could call it the best job on some days, and on some days you could call it the worst job in college football. It's just it's a level. This fan base is at a little different level, and Kev, while I do think Michigan and Ohio State and all the what we people down here think of northern teams, Rust Belt, whatever you want to call it, I'm not trying to make an argument that people in the South care more, but they just come at it differently. Like it's a bit more of a religion, I guess is what and so I think the vitriol. Now, that said, as I'm saying this, it comes into my mind that Ryan Day went literally from people ready to fire him after he lost to Michigan a couple of years ago, and a few weeks later he was winning a national title.
4 or 5 times in a row lost to Michigan.
Yeah. And that usually would get a coach fired.
Right.
But if you sprinkle in a national title,
right,
you're okay. Now, But now going back to the SEC, every few years in LSU, 2019 now, I guess, and Auburn twice, Chiswick got one, and then Malzahn, did they get 2? I'm just thinking about Chiswick's was with one of them was with Cam Newton. Didn't they have another one later on? But what I'm getting at is like those SEC jobs, it's crazy. You can win a national title and be out. Same thing at LSU. You can win a national title and be gone 2 years later. Whereas Baylor and most Big 12 schools, pretty much every Big 12 school, if you won a national title, it would buy you a minimum of 5 years. If Baylor won a national title in football, Dave Aranda would get a lifetime contract. And that's not even me taking a poke at my alma mater. It's just the truth. It's just a different, it's the same reason, the people out there grumbling about Scott Drew this year. Oh, man. Oh, goodness. Oh, we're going to have a conversation. Really? Really? Freaking Baylor University won a national title in men's basketball. How long does that buy Scott Drew? I would argue the rest of his career. Now, would that do it at Kentucky or Duke or UNC? No, sir. No, sir. But that's just, again, that's the thing. That's the way things are wired. All right. What else do you have for me?
All right. So then there is this whole Big 12 selling itself for some extra equity money. Your thoughts on this and what it means for the Big 12 in Baylor?
I mean, you really simplified it. Selling itself for some private equity money. I would say now we should say what it's called. It's like Redbird Capital, I believe.
Yep.
And tell me the figures real quick. It's an infusion. The member schools, if they want to do this deal, could opt in, and they would basically this would serve as $30 million of private equity money. And I think what I was reading is it was like on a 10% interest rate. So it's essentially it's like a
30
cash
million
infusion. Yeah.
It's a 5-year, $30 million each school with Redbird Capital and Weatherford Capital.
Okay. What is the Big 12 getting, though? They're accepting, what, 11 or 12 million? Does that say what it is? I think that's right.
12 and a half for the league office.
League office is getting $12.5 million. You go, why is the league office? What do they need that for? What are they going to do with that? Well, I mean, your mark is a man of action, and we shall see. Something tells me you don't accept a $12.5 million loan without having some kind of plan for how that's going to be spent. And
and how you can make money on that too.
By the way, I do not think Baylor will opt into this. And if they, oh man, $30 million of NIL money on top of, I don't think it's that simple. I don't think, again, with the fact that you're supposed to use your rev share and then NIL, and then, again, I know everybody's doing it differently and they're finding ways around it. Could you take that $30 million and then go get the greatest portal class ever, or put together a portal / freshman class to remember? Probably you could take that $30 million and find a way to kind of launder it through your program somehow and use that for those purposes. Okay. I don't know if that's exactly what this is intended to do, but you'd be crazy to think that if the university was going to accept this. So I noticed one guy who seems to have a pretty decent understanding of the sports business side of things said that he was putting the over-under on teams that would or would not accept this at 3.5 in the Big 12. How many teams does the Big 12 have now? 16?
Yep.
So I would say that Baylor, I would be very surprised if Baylor accepted it $30 million. You go, Matt, why wouldn't Baylor want that? I mean, it's kind of what you're talking about, Kevin. You've got to make it back. You've got to, the thought is that on this next media agreement that it's going to be so huge or something that you'd be able to make it back on that. Maybe so, but I'd be awfully careful.
Yeah, it's not like Redbird and Weatherford are investing all this money just to invest money because they like to invest money and throw money away. They're investing this money because they want to make it back. And if you can't make it back, then you're on the hook for it. And even if you can make it back in a media deal, then you're just, aren't you just borrowing from, what's the phrase? Borrowing from Betty to pay Barnaby? I don't know. Like
Peter to pay Paul.
Sure. I just inserted some different names. But
okay.
You're just borrowing from one person to pay the next, and so you're not actually gaining anything for yourself.
Well,
of course, all you need to gain is wins, I guess.
If you're in big trouble as an athletic department and you desperately needed it, you would use it to get back on your feet, create some opportunities with the thought that it would help you get going again. I mean, it's the same reason any of us, people take out a second mortgage or they go get a loan. Sometimes people desperately need that to get them through a time. And that would be what some of these schools might need. I don't think Baylor's going to get involved.
If the over-under is at 3.5, what teams do you think would take it in the Big 12? Do you think it would be Tech because they know they have it, or do you think they wouldn't take it because they didn't need it?
I don't think they need it.
Is this a rich becoming richer?
Yeah, I don't think they need it, so they wouldn't do it. I think you'd have to look at a place like I'll tell you who might be able to use it. Like Iowa State just lost their coach and everybody left. All the players went with him to Penn State. They're going through it right now. I would say K-State, Iowa State, or like a Cincinnati, or even okay, let's think about this. Who are the private schools in the Big 12?
Oh, that's a good question.
Baylor and I just know UCF is a huge school. TCU is a private school. I could see TCU doing it and having a plan for how to get the infusion, how to pay it back, all that kind of stuff. To your point, there might be a reason that these billionaire types would go, all right, let's use this. I like the 10% number. And then, honestly, I think on this next deal, it won't be that hard to pay it back. I would be fascinated to hear Cody Campbell's take on whether or not this was a smart move by the Big 12. And
let's get him on.
Something tells me he'll give it. I think Cody probably would come on.
Right.
I haven't reached out to him in a while. I used to email him a little. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I think Cody Campbell would come on with us. And I think he'd be an interesting guest. Somebody put a picture of him up recently. What was it? It was an interesting little story. It was a fake news story. And Cody responded to it, "Hey, this is wrong, and I would appreciate you using a better picture of me," or something like that. He's kind of funny. You have to give him that. All right, sir, what else do you have?
All right, so last one would be, what do you think of these post-spring college football rankings from Bill Bender?
Who is Bill Bender?
It's
I don't know what this is.
It's Sporting News.
Oh, okay. Post. Okay, so wait. Is this done with knowing the Sorsby thing? Is that
No, this is before that.
he had Tech 25th? Okay, well that's stupid.
This list surprised me. That's why I wanted to get your take.
But I mean,
on
that's dumb. Even without Sorsby, I'd still have Tech, in the 15 to 20 range. Post spring, I would say that I have zero reason to understand why Penn State would be that high. I don't really know why Illinois nor Clemson, quite frankly. Clemson's coming off a horrible year. I don't know what the thought is. I mean, I know which one went to Florida? Was that Sumrall? John Sumrall? I don't really know why why in the world would you put Florida ahead of Miami after what Miami did last year? I'm going to stop. If I ever follow this person, I'm not going to this is just, most of it is just kind of strange.
Yep, that's what I thought too.
I mean, I don't get it. I would say Tech, OU, and A&M are all too low. Like, what is the thought that A&M is the 20th best team in the country? They're getting their quarterback, and I know they had a lot of guys go in the draft, but are you trying to tell me that A&M has the talent to be the 20th best team in the country? Man, I know I've got a child there, but that doesn't make me some kind of big Aggie fan. I would put A&M ahead of Clemson, ahead of Illinois, ahead of Florida, ahead of South Carolina, ahead of Arizona State. Definitely ahead of SMU.
I would say that the biggest wild card team is Notre Dame headed into this year. I know a lot of people have them as the number one team. They're going to win the national championship. But at the same time, I think there's still very much that's unknown about them, especially because they just lost their top 2 running backs, and you're dealing with a sophomore quarterback.
Yeah, but he showed great promise. Mm-hmm. I like that quarterback. Golly, have you seen, speaking of that, isn't it wild to go from a real downer of a quarterback draft where you're just like, even the guys who went fairly early, like Beck, you're just like, or Aller or whatever, you're just like, ooh. And you look at next year, oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's why I kept telling you, I think, I don't know if this worked out for Trinidad Chambliss. Now, he may come back and have an unbelievable season, but like that dude's athleticism and how he would have tested and how he would have thrown, I think Chambliss would have gone higher in this draft than he will next year. Even if he may go have a great year, but oh my gosh. I mean, they've got Arch going first. They got Dante going second.
Yeah.
They probably have I'm talking about second quarterback.
Right.
Julian Sayin from Ohio State. I mean, that thing you just had up there, yeah. I could just go right down the line of all people that look like they could go in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's not even to mention the great DJ Lagway, sir. Mm-hmm. What else do you have for me?
That'll be it for Campus Confidential for today.
I don't think they're putting Hoover in there, but he could end up coming. I mean, where was Mendoza going into last season?
Exactly.
Although
if you ask Jake Spavital like I did, he was like, yeah, I see it. I always saw it. So.
Well, I would say this. I would be beyond fascinated to see what NFL teams would do if Sorsby got in this supplemental draft. I think somebody would spend a 3rd round pick on him.
You think so? You want to bring that baggage when we've already seen an increase in suspensions for this very same thing in the NFL?
That's not baggage. He's an idiot for doing it, and he got carried away, and and maybe he's addicted. I think if you became convinced that he had gotten help and he was past it, I just think this is way easier than a kid coming off like I would way trust this kid over like a Johnny Manziel or a Diego Pavia, because I think this kid can flat out play, and that's not impacted by him being an idiot, like in being on too many apps and stuff. You can, that's the great thing about the NFL. They've got something for everybody. You could literally assign somebody that would like watch his phone all day, like deactivate any opportunity of this man gambling to help it. It'd almost be like a sponsor. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm like literally thinking about like,
yeah,
an AA sponsor.
I keep thinking of the 2 people that you compared him to being Manziel and Pavia, and that bar is not really that high of a bar. And so I don't know that you would be talking about, he's going to be.
Yeah, but Manziel was a Heisman Trophy winner, and
I'm talking about
the Heisman Trophy finalist. And
I'm talking about the NFL bar. College player, yes.
And Manziel went in the 1st round. So as a prospect, he was highly, highly valued. And
Yeah.
I think Sorsby, if Sorsby had been allowed to play a college season, there was a great chance Sorsby was going to be a first-round pick in the NFL, which I'm saying, I think in a supplemental draft, why in the world wouldn't you take a crack at him? If you're one of those quarterback-needy teams and you could do it for a third or fourth round pick. I forget how the supplemental works. Don't you have to basically use one of your first round or picks in the following draft? I mean, I think that's kind of how it works. So I'm saying I think his value would be a third round pick in the supplemental draft, in the NFL supplemental draft.
Teams submit blind bids, rounds 1 through 7 for players, and the highest bidder wins the player and forfeits that corresponding pick in the following NFL year's draft.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and by the way, I'm trying to think of a famous supplemental draft person. Steve Walsh, the former Miami great, very famous because the Cowboys took him after they had taken Troy Aikman. So you can imagine how that made Troy Aikman feel. Oh, meet your new head football coach, Jimmy Johnson. Oh, and by the way, Jimmy's going to take Steve Walsh in the supplemental draft. So
you ready for
you'll have a good time.
Most successful supplemental draft player, Chris Carter, taken in the 4th round by the Eagles in 87.
Yeah, that was another guy that had some that ended up having a Hall of Fame career, who had some form of, I think, addiction issues and stuff, but overcame it. If I'm remembering
Bernie
correctly.
Kosar and Brian Bosworth also. Bosworth in that same supplemental draft, and then Bernie Kosar a couple years
ago. Say what they gave up for Bosworth?
Oh, no, I'm not sure. Doesn't say.
All right. Well, it is the Matt Mosley Show. Is that it for today?
That's
or do you have one more? Okay, good. That was a strong Campus Confidential. Now, I want everybody to know at about 2:30, we are going to play for you the interview. Ed Werder and I did a sit down with Matt Miller, the excellent ESPN college football guru, college football, the NFL draft guru, let's call him. And if you watch the second and third day of the ESPN's coverage, there he was. He was right up there in the middle of your screen, Matt Miller. Ed and I, as part of our doomsday duties, we had him on. And so at about 2:30 today, we'll or about 2:35, we'll let you hear from Matt Miller, and that's how we'll that's what we're going to do to end the show today. And we hope you'll enjoy that. Kev, next though, let's take a peek around the NFC East, and let's discuss what we've seen from the Eagles, Giants, and Commanders. We'll do that next.
The all-new 2026 Jeep Cherokee is back. Roomier, smarter, and ready for city streets, the highway, and the road less traveled. Advanced safety tech, available 4x4 confidence, and premium comfort, and an amazing 37 MPG built for weekdays and weekend getaways. And meet the all-new 2026 Dodge Charger, now in 2-door and 4-door. Legendary muscle with modern performance, next-gen tech, and unforgettable style. If you've been waiting for something new, this is it. Visit Allen Samuels Dodge in Waco. Come by, let's be friends.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
When you strive for greatness, you have a target on your back. And when it comes to finances, we're all targets for scammers. With the right game plan, you can protect yourself. Don't get faked by fraud.
Here's a tip. Never deposit someone else's money into your bank account. Scammers will send you money or overpay you and then ask you to refund a portion of the money back to them. This is a scam.
This message is brought to you by Central National Bank.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
Oh man, goodness gracious, there we are. Okay, it looks like, Kev, that we will have programming announcement. We'll decide when we want to run it tomorrow. In fact, I think we could run it tomorrow at about 2:30. Or 2:25, just depending on how long we go. But we will have Scott Drew on tomorrow. And Kevin, I'll be in touch with you on exactly how we want to execute that. So that will happen tomorrow. And man, the excitement. Baylor basketball, it's back. The portal. Who did they get? What's the Yale kid like? What's the Mingo brothers? What is this team going to look like? What about Michael Perez? What's Bodo? When's the guy going to be healthy? Is he ever going to be healthy? Lots of questions surround all of this, and we'll go over some of that. So lots of things going on. And then, Kevin, I just wanted to check on any sort of breaking news. Man, I was loving, by the way, Jordan Spieth for a while was in first place at Doral, and it's just been so long since he's won. I got a little excited about it. Unfortunately, Cam Young is now one stroke ahead of him. Cam Young has had an unbelievable day. Both of those guys have had great days, but Cam Young is in first place as we speak at the, they call it the Blue Monster, where they play that tournament out there at Doral in Florida, in Miami, Florida. But we'll keep you updated on that one. Kevin, I did want to keep people, our folks, up to date on some NFL news. Calais Campbell reunites with the Ravens for a 19th season. Now, of course, he wasn't with them the whole time, but 6-time Pro Bowl defensive lineman Calais Campbell is reuniting with the Ravens. 1-year deal, source told Adam Schefter. This will mark the 19th season for Campbell, who will turn 40 on September 1st. Wow. They may have Nnamdi Matabuke, I think is that a former A&M player, back from neck surgery. They don't know. The only Ravens D linemen currently available who played more than 100 snaps last season are Travis Jones, John Jenkins, and C.J. Okoye. Not exactly a murderer's row. Campbell, at age 39, played 643 snaps last season. Wow. Played in all 17 games and finished with 6.5 sacks. Kevin, at age 39, he did that. Isn't that amazing? We think of quarterbacks playing into their 40s. We don't often think of defensive linemen. Back in 2017, he finished second in the NFL Defensive Player of the Year voting. My goodness, what a career. One NBA note, Kevin, while I'm thinking about this. John Wall, 5-time NBA All-Star John Wall, yes, that John Wall, has become the president of basketball operations at Howard, returning to Washington to partner with the top-ranked HBCU in the country. The school told ESPN. Man, he served as the team's honorary captain of the day at some point, and then expressed to the school a desire to be the president of basketball ops at the NBA level one day. He's played an active role in team meetings and evaluations of recruits and transfer targets. Wow. All right. John Wall getting it done. All right, Kevin, join me for this one before we break, and then we'll have Matt Miller with us. I want to look at some of these NFC East. I want to look at
which one you want to go first.
I want to go Philadelphia Eagles first.
Okay.
Ooh, I like this. Now we'll always watch Mekhi Lemon because of the Cowboys trading back from 20 to 23, and the Eagles come up and get Lemon. I thought this was interesting. I was looking up some things on these players, and the Iowa coach Kirk Ferentz said he is as good as I've seen going back 20 plus years. I don't know if anybody's impacted the game more. There was only a 4% chance he would be available at pick 20, according to ESPN Analytics Draft Predictor. He was there. So, I mean, you can't help but think that's pretty exciting. Now, some of these other picks, I got to say, Stowers, of course, Cowboys got Trigg, and Trigg is, as we talked about with some of our guests, as athletic and makes plays that pretty much no one else can make in this draft.
Yes.
But Stowers it's like for every hiccup, piece of baggage, whatever you want to call it, that our buddy brought to the table, Stowers is the opposite of that. Stowers has he does have great athleticism. His sister was on that A&M national championship winning volleyball team. She was at Baylor at one point, by the way. But I found that, I think that's going to be a worthy replacement someday. Remember, they got you remember Goddard, and they had, they obviously remember Zach Ertz. They had Brent Selleck before that. This could be a tremendous player for them as they get ready to probably move on from A.J. Brown.
Well, I think this is a good time to get a tight end where you still have Goddard in the fold, at least temporarily, at least for this 1 year, I think.
The Eagles, they know what they're looking for. I have to hand it to them on that, because and this goes all the way back to, their left tackle and right tackle. When I was covering the Eagles back in the day and at a lot of their games, John Runyon was playing right tackle, massive man. And then their left tackle at the time was a big 6'7" type. They love just the massively tall, tackles. And this offensive tackle, Markel Bell, that they took, both the right tackle Lane Johnson, who's been very good, and the left guard Landon Dickerson, Kev, pondered retirement this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Bell now gives them some depth. They got him in round 3, and he can kind of have time to grow behind Lane Johnson. But when you got guys that start to think about retirement, listen to this. This is why I brought up this. You know, you talk about short arm guys.
Mm-hmm.
36.38 inch arms. Goodness gracious. Wingspan of 87.13. 6'9". Bell is 6'9". His arms are a full inch longer than the next closest prospect. He has roughly the same wingspan as Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Okay.
The Greek Freak. All right. Other looking at this, the rest of it, I don't know why Micah Morris was still down there. I thought that was a good pick in round 6. And honestly, that round 7 pick might have been one of my favorite picks of any of those late round picks.
Which one? Bernard?
Go all the way down there. No, Cole Wisniewski.
Okay.
The Tech. That's another kid who I think was at like North Dakota State.
Right.
Then he came to Tech, and I think he's the next. You remember how Christian Parker was known, and I'm not saying this because the kid's white.
You
Eagles
said they know what they like.
I know.
And they like white DBs.
They do. But I think this kid slipped way too far. And did they hold it against him because he's a white kid from Texas Tech or something? I don't know.
Well, they tried to make it right because their next pick was from Nigeria. So they balanced it out there.
I don't know. I don't know if that's right, but
I think. But to Uar Bernard, though, the Nigerian,
very interesting.
Never played football and yet gets drafted. But I did see his measurements comped to Myles Garrett, and it was eerily similar. I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's why they got him.
Yeah, but that's a total flyer, and it's a nice little thing they're doing to honor the NFL's like international program. Yeah. Now, if he becomes something, I mean, great. I would say that I, for the most part, liked it fine. That quarterback, you're a little bit taking a flyer on him. I just think, I don't know how many starts he has, honestly. I saw some quarterbacks get taken in this draft that just did not. I think it's very scary, some of the quarterbacks that get taken that don't have a lot of starts, especially way high. This was not high, but the guy that comes to my mind is like Trey Lance.
Yeah.
That was just it ended up being a horrible pick. And got quarterbacks that have really only played one season. That's why I would have been scared. As much as I love Chambliss, that would be the scary thing about taking him, because he would have only, started 13 games or whatever. Yeah. At a high level. He started a ton of games, but I'm just talking about at that kind of high level. I give this a B+. Is what I give the Eagles. What about you?
I don't like grades, but I think that they like what they like, and they seem to get what they needed and what they liked. And so if that's going to be the case, I can't necessarily argue with that. So I think top to bottom, very good draft.
All right, give me Commanders.
All righty, here you go.
I think some had them taking a wide receiver at 7. They end up getting Styles, so you could have had, I'm just trying to think. You could have, where did Tyson go?
Carnell Tate went in 4, so you had Jordan Tyson go at
Tyson
8.
Go 8, yeah. So
right
you could have had Tyson. I mean, I think that was Dan Quinn. I mean, you're like, oh, who's making the picks there? That was
I also think that I don't know that they expected Sonny Styles to actually still be there.
True.
So that means you're going to pair Sonny Styles still with Bobby Wagner right now.
Yeah, who is very long in the tooth. So I mean, I'm great player, but ooh, I mean, he has now been around a long time. I've got to study these players more. I do like the because this was a team that had been connected to the great Jeremiah Love as a, if he was still there at 7 as well. They end up taking Sonny Styles. I think great value, tremendous off the ball linebacker. I don't think you can go wrong. I think some people would say he or Caleb Banks were like the safest picks in this draft. And so I think the Styles pick, I have a hard time knocking that. You don't get to pick again all the way to round 3, Antonio Williams. Now, I find Antonio Williams an interesting prospect because I mean, there are things you get into a kind of a crapshoot when you start taking receivers in the 3rd or 4th. Like, I truly believe that running back they took later in the 6th round, I like that pick. I think he's out of Penn State.
Yep.
I thought they found a pretty good running back late, which you can do. I see teams wander around a little bit receiver in the middle of these drafts sometimes. I like some of the measurables, and that they look at that RAS where you're looking at like where they rank on there. He was a 9.09 out of a possible 10.0. That was 350 out of 3,844 wide receivers from 1987 to 2026. All right, that's where it really combines a ton of things where, things that they can do. Here's my issue with this guy. Notable injuries at Clemson. This is where I get scared. Hamstring strain in 25, misses 2 games. Undisclosed injury in 2023 that caused him to miss 9 games and medically redshirt. For some teams, Kevin, this would be a just major red flag. Now you say, well, Matt, 2024 only missed couple of games in 25. Okay, that's fine. I'm just saying we learned with some of these. I think we're getting better and better medicals on players, and players, because of those better and better medicals, are paying a higher price in how far they fall when there are medical concerns. I would just say that's enough of a medical history to concern me. Antonio Williams. Any of these other picks, Kev, that grabbed your attention at all? I love I don't really, 7th round, you're just taking a flyer on a quarterback from Rutgers. Yeah.
Well, once again, I think that you only had 6 picks, and they filled needs that they needed to get, and only time can tell whether these will be great picks or not. I do love, as you mentioned, the Penn State running back pick. Penn State had 2 tremendous running backs this past season that were coming out. So I like that pick. They got another edge guy. And Sonny Styles, of course, brings the whole thing up at the top. So, and I love that they got a Big Ten center out of Michigan State. I think that's great. Good linemen come for the Big Ten. So there you go.
All right. And we need to make time for our next guest. But let's finish with the New York Giants. And
it's a John Harbaugh draft.
Let me tell you the picks I love. I like, and boy, they certainly needed to reinforce their defensive line. That'll be interesting to see because they waited a long time till the 6th round. I think Reese right there, they had to be thrilled that some things happened that made Reese available to them. I think if anybody is going to be the Micah Parsons of this draft, it's him. Cowboys and others are hoping some of their pass rushers might end up being that. We had the guy on yesterday, John Owning, Kev, who was way high on the skill set of Messidor. I mean, he thought he had the best pass rush skill set in the entire draft. Now, the only problem with Messidor, he's already 25 years old.
Yep.
That was a bit of a knock on him. It's hard to knock Reese. The only thing you knock on Reese is you just are not totally sure what he is yet.
You're kind
a
of
little bit like the
upside.
Cowboys guy, Barham, although this guy has, I think, a much higher ceiling than Barham as a pass rusher. I think he could be great. Then the Miami of Florida O-lineman. I kept seeing this guy that he was going to go first. I then watched him just maul people, throughout much of Miami season and all that kind of stuff. So I think Colton Hood, where they got him, was great. So much attention went to Jermod McCoy because he was dropping. And those guys always get all the attention, and he's an injury risk and all that. I think Colton Hood can I think if you can get a DB that with this kind of ball skills at 37, you got to feel really good. This is a team. Let me tell you what this team has struggled. Maybe Harbaugh has had some good success with DBs, linemen. I would say before Harbaugh got there, they have been out in the offensive lineman wilderness for a good while. And they just do not seem to hit on O-linemen. It's just a constant problem. And we shall see, because I believe they took, a couple of them in this draft. Yeah, 2. So 1 premium pick, and then they came back around later, 192, and had another go at it. I think all in all, I would say I liked maybe the Eagles, then the Giants, then the Commanders, I think is how I'd rank it. And then maybe I like the Cowboys best.
Yeah, I think that the Giants had the best one out of the entire NFC East, including the Cowboys. This is once you infuse Jim Harbaugh into your system, you get a draft like this. He's going to start in the trenches. He's going to go out from there. Colton Hood, Malachi Fields, both on my watch list for my Colts, and great players. And I don't mind that they waited till later to reinforce the defensive line a little bit. There's so many different options that you can do that, and one of them, of course, is how you're going to coach them as well. And so, John Harbaugh, when he's your head coach, you're going to get that kind of mentality, and I think that's great.
All right, there it is. Let's take a quick break, Kev, and then I'll introduce our next segment, our next guest. It is going to be Matt Miller, he's the new one of the faces of ESPN's draft coverage, alongside Mel Kiper Jr. Matt Miller on the show next.
At Schmaltz Sandwich Shop, we don't just make sandwiches, we build them with fresh ingredients, bold flavors, and homemade baked bread every single day. Toasty on the outside, goodness on the inside. Schmaltz Sandwich Shop in Waco is locally owned and operated since 1975, with 2 locations in Waco, Town West off Valley Mills and downtown off 5th Street. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or just a craving, we got the perfect bite waiting for you. The Riesel Fair is back and bigger than ever. Bring the whole family for a day packed with fun, from thrilling rides, delicious food, local vendors, and live music Friday night. Saturday music begins at 2 p.m. Admission is $5 for adults, 2 to 12 years, $3. 2 and under are free. Mark your calendar and join us for the Riesel Fair, May 7th through 9th. The Riesel Fair, where memories are waiting just for you.
This year, I made a New Year's resolution. I want every business to own a new copier from CTWP. Call me, Leroy the Copier Dog. Let's get you a copier delivered today. CTWP, your local copier company.
Bumblebee Blinds of Waco and Temple is your one-stop shop for custom window treatments, transforming your vision into reality. Choose from a selection of shades, blinds, shutters, and curtains. Bumblebee Blinds stands behind our service and products, ensuring peace of mind with our trusted warranty. Call Bumblebee Blinds today to schedule your design consultation. Bumblebee Blinds, simplifying window treatments one covering at a time. BumblebeeBlinds.com. It's the premier charity event of the year, the 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, presented by Ascension Providence. A fun evening filled with great food and drink, dancing, a spectacular auction, and more. This year's theme is Nashville Nights, Neon Lights, and Bullfights. Get your tickets now, donate, or be a sponsor. Help support the American Cancer Society to find a cure. The 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, October 24th at MCC Highlander Ranch. For more information, go to centraltexascattlebaronsball.org.
All right, and just a reminder, this golf tournament coming up. So tomorrow we're going to have Scott Drew on, and that'll be fun. We got a lot of ground to cover, but this upcoming Scott Drew Classic golf tournament will be played out at Bear Ridge. Breakfast serve, shotgun start, lunch will be delivered to players. There'll be an amazing dinner that evening. I mean, this is a really this will be a really cool deal. I mean, everybody's going to be out there. The basketball team, the coaching staff, this exciting new coaching staff, all of the thing. And so, I did want to tell you that I think there's room for one more team. If you're listening today and you want to get a team together, a foursome together, here's what you do. All right. And maybe tomorrow I'll send this to you, Kevin. We can throw it on the screen. It might help people because this is a little bit of a long email, I'm going to say. But if you're driving around or listening to us somewhere at your office, write this down. info@legacysportsenterprises.com. info@legacysportsenterprises.com. Room for one more group if you want to play in this tournament. And then again, Scott Drew will be on our show tomorrow, and that will be very exciting. And we'll mention, I'm sure we'll mention the big golf tournament. Kev, let's do this to kind of end the show today. We had Kevin did a nice job of kind of getting this edited down. Ed Werder and I do the Doomsday podcast. It's also a part of the Rogue family of networks. Let's check in with the noted ESPN draft expert. We'll talk a lot about the Cowboys draft class, but my audience here on the Mosley Show has not gotten to hear this, and I wanted you to be able to hear this. Here is Matt Miller, and that redheaded guy you see is my friend and colleague, Ed Werder, the longtime legendary ESPN reporter. Here's that conversation we had with Matt Miller.
We are privileged at the Doomsday Podcast to have a very special guest, one of the top draft analysts in all of television, ESPN's Matt Miller joins us. He's been a year-round draft analyst for ESPN full-time since 2022. You probably saw him during their coverage of the draft, read him on the website, in all of his preview information. I know I rely a lot on his opinion and what he writes to create my own opinion of players I don't know that well. And you really saw him shine on day 3, which, having covered the draft at ESPN for many years, I know day 3 is the most difficult day. It's when the picks come quickest. It's when not everybody is all that well known, except to people like Matt Miller. Matt, we appreciate you joining the Doomsday Podcast for the first time. Let me start with this. The Cowboys are coming off one of the worst defensive seasons in franchise history, allowing a record 511 points, most in the NFL. Then drafted a safety in the first round since 2005, and Roy Williams was that pick. Yet you think that Caleb Downs was your favorite pick of the entire draft. Can you explain why?
Yeah, guys, I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much. I love the Caleb Downs pick. He was my number 3 overall player in the draft. And I know each team has their own board, and where I generically rank players maybe doesn't always line up with the scheme fit or the needs of those teams, but Downs fits every team. And we were talking about him as a player that, man, shoot, he might go as early as 4 to the Titans, 5 to the Giants. It seemed like his floor was probably 7 or 8 overall. So for him to get to 11 and for Dallas to be able to move up that one spot to grab him, I love the patience of them to wait and then say, okay, now's the time to go get our guy. We'll flip with Miami. We'll go get our guy. And I look back to Downs. I remember him as a true freshman at Alabama. If you can play for Nick Saban as a true freshman, you're pretty good. If you can start for Nick Saban as a true freshman, you are great. And for Coach Saban to talk about him as one of his favorite players of all time, that kind of reference meant so much to me. And so you see him coming as a true freshman. They win a national championship at Alabama. He's an All-American. Coach Saban retires. Downs goes to Ohio State, where he had a good connection with that staff. They win a national championship. He's an All-American again. And this past year, they almost won a national championship. He's an All-American again. And so success follows Caleb Downs. And he has that. He has the work ethic. He has the maturity. He has the character of a winner, of a leader. And then there's the stuff on the field where he's an absolute eraser as a safety. You can put him in the box. He can play in an overhang. For folks who haven't seen him play, you visualize someone a lot like Budda Baker, who's been a 3-time All-Pro. That's exactly who Caleb Downs can be, as someone that he could play in the slot, in the nickel. He could play deep. If you want to go split safeties, he can run that. He's just so incredibly valuable in all the different tools that he brings to the field.
It was interesting to me to listen to the Cowboys at their press conference after they made the selection. And Brian Schottenheimer was talking about how he's a perfect, nickel corner. And Nick Saban, when he was on ESPN, said he's heard that, but he doesn't necessarily think that's the best usage of him. He thinks he's the best top-down type of safety who is used in a myriad, different variety of different ways. What would you do if you were Christian Parker, a first-time NFL defensive coordinator? How would you get the most out of this player?
Yeah, I think Downs is unique in the sense, Ed, that we can actually say you can move him around week to week. And this happens a lot with rookies. A guy comes into the NFL and you say, oh, well, he can do this, he can do that. And you talk about you're going to use him in a lot of different ways. Guys can't handle that. Mentally, they're not ready. Caleb Downs is ready. And so I think, to Coach Schottenheimer's point, could he be a nickel corner? Absolutely. And he'd be one heck of a blitzer in that role. Now, if you're comfortable with, where you're at nickel-wise and you want him to be that top-down safety driving on the ball, then yeah, it'd be that. And I understand Malik Hooker's here, Jalen Thompson's here. There's some safeties already in place. But I think Downs is a player that, as teams are running a lot of 3 safety looks, he's going to be able to get on the field that way. If you need him to bump down and cover the slot and a nickel spot, he can do that as a corner as well. I mean, I don't know if there's anything he can't do. I would say athletically, he's not the twitchiest. He's not the straight line fastest guy. We didn't get a 40 time on him in the pre-draft process, but he's not straight line the fastest guy. And so my only worry would be in that nickel corner spot. Are you going to give up a little bit of speed? But he should be able to, he's 6 foot tall, 206 pounds. He's going to be able to handle guys to the line of scrimmage. And I think if you have him in the nickel, what you love is his ability to blitz, stop the run. And maybe you're matching him up against some of these tight ends that are lining up in the slot. That's probably the best use of him there.
Matt, do you feel like the presence of President Clinton the other day in the pre-draft news conference really inspired Stephen and Jerry to make such good picks?
I still can't believe that. I watched it back where they're talking about this and that, and oh, by the way, the president's here. Jerry almost falls down. I mean, where else in the world does that happen other than Dallas? It's fantastic. But if they, President Clinton won a bunch of elections, Caleb Downs won a bunch of football games. So if that's the comparison we want to make, I guess we could do it.
Ooh, I like that. I like that direction. The Malachi Lawrence pick. It'll always be remembered. Messidor goes right before that. Eagles move up and take the receivers. So we're going to kind of look at all these players, and that's the fun thing of the draft, and kind of watch them throughout their career. Lawrence, the thing Ed and I keep hearing, raw. Somebody was saying to me earlier about needs to get stronger and sturdier at the point of attack. So, sometimes we can look so hard at maybe their deficiencies, and I'm sure you've watched so much film, all that shows up at some point. What's the biggest upside for him? And what's your, kind of like you just told us about Downs, what's your biggest concern for him moving forward?
Yeah, I would say it's important in the draft to look at the positions as they get wiped out. So we can head into this draft and say, okay, the Cowboys need an edge rusher. I think everyone knew that, right? But to your point, these guys start flying off the board. Bailey goes, Reese goes, Bang goes, Messidor goes. So then you're at a spot where, okay, we need this position, and this is what's left on the board. So did it look like maybe a little bit of a reach based on where all the draft analysts had him ranked? Sure. But that position was being wiped out. And it was not a group. Edge rusher this year wasn't a group where there was a lot of depth. So you're going to get to round 2. There's going to be a significant drop off. And I think Lawrence was kind of the pivot point for that, the bridge between 1 and 2. He needs to get stronger in his lower body. That's the key. But I think, again, when we grade players, it's generically. So now we get to see him how he's going to fit in this particular defense. You're going to play him in space. You're going to play him on the edge. He's going to be almost more of like a 3-4 outside linebacker. That's what you want from him, right? You want to just let him go be fast, go play in space, let the big guys up front, let Quentin Williams and Rashawn Gary, handle the guys up front. Just let him go be an athlete around the edge. So in that way, he's bigger than Ezraku was, but I think when you think about how you want to use them, they're both players that are going to be at their best coming at an angle off the edge. Now, Lawrence is a little bit better in the run game, a little bit better at using some of that power to run through guys if a tackle's going to jump set him. I think at 255, he is going to be able to run through guys a little bit better than Ezraku was. But yes, this is a player who was at UCF. There needs to be a little bit more development in his game. But he was one of the fastest rising players from the Senior Bowl till now. As people got in more to the film and you see the workouts and you start to think about what he can become, and his stock shot through the roof.
Have we seen him much against elite competition, against top offensive tackle prospects and so forth?
No, and that's the question, right? Coming out of UCF, that is the key. We haven't seen him against LSU, and we haven't seen him against Texas, and so that's the rub. But I do think that's where pre-draft events are important, just to get to see guys next to each other to be able to see what they can do. And you're betting on your staff to be able to maximize a player's ability, and I think that's something that. With Christian Parker coming in, you probably feel a little bit better about, is, hey, we have a vision for this team. This is a guy who's coached at the NFL and the college levels, so you probably want to believe there's a little bit better development. And Lawrence was the guy at the East-West Shrine. So we didn't see him at the Senior Bowl, with the players that you would see there. But talking to folks at East-West Shrine, when he was there in Frisco working out, they were like, oh, this guy's going early. And, to see him against that group and understand that this is a player that looks completely different than a lot of the other guys here, I think that gives teams a lot of comfort in what he can be.
And it seems like if he has limitations as a rookie, if the thing he does best is rush off the edge, you can find a way to get him on the field and make him a productive player and have an immediate impact.
Yeah, and the cool thing is he could play on either side. So a lot of times guys come in, they're left-handed rusher, they're right-handed rusher. He's done both. They moved him all over the place. And I think early, you spend pick 23 on a player, everyone wants to, he's going to be a 3-down player, he's going to be a 3-down player. Well, what if he's not right away? What if right now he's a situational rusher because you've got some guys, this stable of pass rushers is starting to get stocked pretty well. What if he's your 3rd-down rusher for right now until he starts to figure some more things out? I think he played 39 games in college. A lot of that was as a situational rusher. So you understand that role for him right away with the belief that then you can build in as he gets stronger some of that run down responsibility.
All right, Pete, Cowboys fans get concerned about Michigan players fairly early in the draft for good reason. Barham, Jayshon
Is that
Barham,
a Mozzie Smith reference or a Taco Charlton reference?
yeah, all of
It's not
them.
a Jordan Lewis reference.
Lewis was okay. They talk about, they're sad they let him get away, but those first rounders, kind of come back to haunt you. This particular player, it seems like people are kind of fascinated with his size. Certainly the versatility. Some players get docked, maybe sometimes, Matt, for being almost too versatile, right? It's like, okay, is he off the ball? We're going to play. We're going to start him that way. Is he going to end up as an edge guy? You've watched this guy now going back and kind of seen him throughout his career because I think he transferred there, didn't he? What stands out about him? And is that one of those guys is he a little bit of a project early, or is this guy good enough, you think, to make an immediate impact?
I was going to say, do you count him as a Maryland guy since he started there? Maybe that'll make fans feel a little bit better if you're like Maryland then Michigan. I think, and it's fun to think about him again. Is the guy who's an off-ball linebacker. Week 3, I think it was last year, Michigan moves him to the edge, and he absolutely takes off. I mean, he was fantastic. He went from being probably a day 3 pick to where he was at, pick number 92. And it was because of that. I think he had 10 TFLs, 4 sacks, and you saw the speed. And at 6'3.5", 240, it's that speed coming off the edge, but he plays with good length and he plays with a great motor. And so I think you look at him and say, okay, yeah, he was an off-ball linebacker. When you moved him to edge rusher, you saw him take off. So, man, what could he be if he practiced there full time? And what could he be if he had a defensive line coach working with him at that particular spot? And I'm not saying he's going to be Micah Parsons, but this franchise has some experience with a guy who came in, and as a rookie, he's doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then you see, okay, wait, he has all the tools to be one of the great pass rushers in the NFL, and you find him a home. And so I think with Barham, it's the same process. Maybe you do a little bit of this on first down, a little bit of that on third down, and we kind of see which one is a better fit. I think he's an edge rusher all day at the next level. And again, they drafted 3 guys who played on the edge in college in this draft. So they obviously want to throw picks and resources at boosting that pass rush group. I think Barham sticks as an edge rusher. And again, a lot like Lawrence, who's going to start as a situational guy. That's probably where he's at right now. I think from a tools perspective, Lawrence has more potential. Barham's more pro ready, even though he did just recently move to edge.
I think Schottenheimer said they're going to start. I think Zach Bond in Philadelphia, they're going to start him inside, and maybe on third downs he goes outside, like you're saying. But it sounded like initially they're going to move him to inside linebacker. I had a general manager. He said his comp was Quay Walker. Would you see that?
Yeah. I could see that. And it's funny not to talk about the New York Giants on a Dallas Cowboys podcast, but they're doing the same thing with Arvell Reese. They're gonna play him inside and then bump him outside some. And so I think it's a fascinating way to use players. And the Titans might do the same thing with Anthony Hill Jr., who went to Texas. We might see a lot of teams start to do this of how do we just get our 11 best athletes on the field? How do we counter all this speed that's showing up on offenses now? And this might be the way that you do that.
All right, and just the rest of this draft, just the overall draft, I think the thing is they had to have a defensive overhaul, and it just seemed ridiculous because there was thought, oh my gosh, what if one of these receivers slips down there? And I think a lot of fans were just hoping that wouldn't happen because Jerry's eyes get big, or if it wasn't Manziel back in the day who he wanted to take instead of Zach Martin, all that happens. But just overall, did you feel like, and even it kind of leads, and I know we'll skip over the offensive linemen since this is kind of a defensive focused. Ed can bring it up if he'd like. But even Devin Moore, the cornerback, I mean, there's an interesting guy because it's like he started a bunch of games at Florida. I keep reading, it's like people seem to think he's going to get hurt, or he has gotten, he's always sort of you're waiting on that injury, except from a size and even a production standpoint, it's there. How much does that injury stuff, would it kind of scare you? And is that what knocked him down there to the 4th round?
It is, for sure. I pulled up my notes. I had him ranked right at 100 overall. I thought there was a chance for him to go there. So you get it 114. It's really good value. But to your point, it's time in every 4 years in college. I think last year it was only 1 game. But it's not that he's undersized. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. Like, he's a big, long, look. He moves the part. So I think the question is, what is happening here? Is it something that's fixable? And I will say the Cowboys have a medical staff that is well renowned. I mean, they are highly respected across the league. And so when you talk about Moore, it was I think a broken collarbone. Then it was a back injury and a concussion. Then it was the shoulder again. So for him, it's kind of above the shoulders of the injuries. And as someone who's going to now be asked to go out and tackle, you're going to have to square up against ends and field, and you have multiple back injuries plus a concussion. I think that's comes in. That's why it falls a little
bit. Big picture, Matt. Christian Parker's the fourth different defensive coordinator for the Cowboys in 4 years. How hard is it for Will McClay and the scouting staff to know what they're looking for when there's that kind of turnover on the defensive side of the ball every year?
I think that's a nightmare, honestly. And I think it's why you see a team that had, historically bad defense last year, is because it is so hard for your scouting staff to identify the types of players your defensive coordinator wants, just to see that defensive coordinator gone. And then you're reinventing the wheel. You draft Ezra Raku, and then, now we're changing things. We got to find out what we want at each position, because it's going to be different. There's a different each spot. So I think it is truly a nightmare outside of guys who are, like Caleb Downs is going to work in any defense. Quinnen Williams is going to work in any defense. Overshown's probably going to work in any defense. But it does make it kind of a nightmare situation for the front office to say, gosh, just give us some consistency so that we can, you can't rebuild in a year when you have a lot of needs. And I think that's one of the fallacies of the offseason, is that you can cross off every need, right? I don't even think Dallas was able to do that in a really good draft just because of pick limitations, right? When you have 7 picks, you can't check off every need realistically. And so for Will McClay, who I think is one of the better evaluators in the NFL, it's tough. And it speaks to his talent level and the staff here that this team has remained largely competitive despite the constant turnover on defense. And you've got a massive change at head coach, but this is an offense that's stocked to win a Super Bowl. And with how many would they spend? 6 picks on defense, 5 picks on defense,
5
with those
7, yeah.
5 players. Yeah. And 3 of those early, 4 of them were in my top 100 players overall. You're hoping that you can quickly turn over this defense with, you bring in Quinnen Williams, Rashawn Gary, and now you bring in these guys.
My last question, another big picture question. Where did you stand on the Micah Parsons trade when it was made? And now that we see, Jerry said at the time, we're going to turn one player into 5 or 6 players, and they've done that. We know who the identity of almost everybody they're going to get back is now. How do you view the trade in the moment that it happened, and how do you view it now?
So I hated the trade when it happened. Just complete honesty. I would say this, a lot of teams do this, and I despise the idea of trading one of your best players and creating a hole that then you have to throw draft picks at to fill. And we can talk about how much cheaper Malachi Lawrence is going to be than Micah Parsons. I think we can all safely assume that Malachi Lawrence is not going to be Micah Parsons.
In 3 or 4 years, you got to pay him too.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so Ed, that's the point, right? You want to draft well enough that you have to pay players. That's the goal. The goal in the draft is to hit so that then you have to pay guys. So to not do that, I struggled to understand it. Why trade away a known all-pro at a premium position for the hope that what you get in return for him is that someone as good as that, when the reality is that they're probably not going to be. So I do like what they've done with the picks. I think to diversify the defense with, Quinnen Williams, with Caleb Downs, that's what you want, right? Is to diversify the defense that way. And I guess Lawrence would be the more apt, player for player comparison there.
Kenny
but
Clark.
I think that Kenny Clark, right? They've done a good job of stocking the defense, I think, with this. But, my complaint with Dallas is always going to be pay your good players. Like, what are we doing? The goal of all 32 NFL teams is to get good young players and to use them as your foundation. For whatever reason, Dallas is the opposite. They're the outlier, and we'll wait to pay guys. And it's got to be frustrating for the fans as well. So I don't know how you guys do it, but it sure makes them fun to talk about every year.
Matt, they'll still be blaming Dak Prescott's contract like 10 years after he's out of the league. This is why we can't sign anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
despite the fact that the salary cap goes up every year in an amount that makes up for Dak's contract. But
like $22 million this year.
Talk to Jets fans or Browns fans about the fact that you're paying a quarterback $60 million. They'd surrender a firstborn child to have that problem. So it's you got to look at where some of these other teams are at. They would love to have the Dallas Cowboys problem on offense.
All right, now after the draft, do you and the rest of the gurus, are y'all all like on a text chain? Do you poke each other about not getting something right? Is there a moment where y'all sort of gather and break it all down together? There's probably some good, healthy, fun competition, but amongst you, but also some good camaraderie. How do you kind of break it down post-draft?
It's funny. We don't talk after the draft. I think we all send each other a congratulatory text, and then it's see you in August. We're doing shows on ESPN still every day. Draft Daily. It's 2 p.m. Central. And so I was on today with Field and Mel and Lewis, and we're chopping it up. We're giving each other crap a little bit, and then come May 1st, I love those guys and I respect each of them. I don't really want to talk to them again for a couple months, right? I think we all go to our individual vacations and we go to our individual bunkers for the summer, and then we'll pop out with tans in the fall and start talking about this again.
Tanned, ready, and rested, as Barry Switzer said.
Yeah.
That's the goal. I'm looking forward to getting there.
And I appreciate you calling out this Ty Simpson pick. It's not that you don't like the player really, but like everybody that keeps kind of justifying it. I think you came out today and were tweeting like, okay, trade down. If you love him or whatever, like try to bail out of that pick or something. But this thought of like, and then McVay comes out like he's just seen a ghost. I mean, the most energy of any coach out there. And he just looks like he's depressed. He's despondent. And then they have to come back and say, well, he and Les Snead are really good friends. They're still tight. And he was just, trying to protect Matthew, who Stafford's a big boy. I mean, I don't think Stafford's probably like, I don't know. Donovan McNabb used to get mad if they took a second round pick, right? I think Kevin Cobb sent Donovan McNabb, got him all sad and depressed. But anyway, I was just going to praise you for, I like how you're approaching that, because it's like, no, it's still a weird pick. It's yes, you're close. Yeah. But that's you really could have gotten so much there that could have helped immediately.
And they need things. They're one play away from the Super Bowl. One play, but they still have needs. Devontae Adams is 33 or 34 years old. They've got a question mark at right tackle after Havenstein retired. They have holes. They really do. And so even if you were set, Tyson guy, we have to leave the 2026 draft with Ty Simpson. We believe he's it, which I disagree with completely. But if that's what they thought, no one else was going to take him that early. Why did you stick at 13? The Jets weren't going to take him at 16. Pittsburgh, maybe, but I think you move back and try to get future picks or more picks. I understand they are, F them picks is their strategy out there. Man, they burnt those picks this year because you could have moved back, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out. I know they've got people out today with the talking points about how much they love Ty Simpson, but even if you love Ty Simpson, you should have drafted him at 17 or 18 instead of 13.
Well, Matt's probably got other appointments, Matthew. We should probably.
I know. You're not talking about my appointments. No,
I know you're wide open.
My day is filled with tennis and whatever. But Matt, thank you, man. Great work and a great run. And we'll talk about these last 2 Cowboys picks with you like tomorrow at 3:30 if that works for you.
There we go.
Appreciate you. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Of course, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks,
when
guys.
Central National Bank decided to partner with Baylor women's basketball, we were hoping Coach Collin would bring that championship mindset to do whatever she has to do to take our workplace culture to the next level.
Well, these donuts are pretty good.
Guys, how we doing?
We're good, Coach.
Craig! What are you doing?
What do you mean?
You have to dunk it.
So far, I think our employees are really enjoying it.
Not everything's a basketball thing.
Did you say something, Craig?
No, ma'am.
That's what I thought.
Dude, I think she likes you.
Central National Bank. proud partner of Baylor Athletics and Baylor Women's Basketball.